Hello there and welcome to the Outside Views report on Scottish politics. The people of Scotland must be given a choice about their future given the damage inflicted by Brexit. Constitution Secretary Angus Robertson has said that. Marking 2 years since the end of the transition period to leave the European Union after 47 years of membership, Mr. Robertson highlighted the negative impacts Brexit continues to have on Scotland's economy. And Constitution Secretary Angus Robertson said about this, "The damages caused by Brexit just continue to mount. In the 2 years since the end of the transition period, we have seen no advantages to leaving the European Union. The cost of living crisis and recession are being felt more deeply in the UK than anywhere else, with recent research showing food bills in the UK are £210 higher in the last 2 years due to Brexit. Households on the lowest incomes are the hardest hit. The UK economy is fundamentally on the wrong path and there is no real alternative on offer within the current system. The Scottish Government is committed to giving the people of Scotland a choice about the future they want, a greener, wealthier and fairer economy within the European Union, or a sluggish, stagnating economy outside of the European Union. We will continue to publish the Building a New Scotland series of prospectus papers to ensure people can make that informed choice." According to the Office for Budget Responsibility, UK GDP is expected to be 4% lower as a consequence of Brexit. This equates to around £100 billion in output and £40 billion in public revenues lost each and every year. Businesses are suffering from lower exports to the EU, labour shortages and recruitment challenges. These issues are also affecting our NHS, with new research by the Nuffield Trust showing that lower EU migration is exacerbating staff shortages. Scotland is and always has been a proud European nation, and we are determined to continue to be an active and constructive participant on EU matters, which will ease the process of Scotland's future return to the EU. This is in stark contrast to the approach being taken by the UK government, intent on undermining retained EU law, which will be hugely damaging to people and businesses in Scotland. The introduction of adult disability payment, further automation and the increase and extension of Scottish child payment has seen more people apply for and get financial support they are entitled to. Thousands of people have also had their benefit awards transferred to Social Security Scotland from the Department of Work and Pensions. In March, adult disability payment, which replaces the UK government's personal independence payment and is the most complex benefit to be introduced so far, was launched as a pilot project before being made available to eligible disabled adults aged 16 to state pensions age in Scotland at the end of August. In November, Scottish child payment increased to £25 and was extended to include eligible children up to age 16, and around 385,000 children are now expected to be eligible. At the same time, Social Security Scotland introduced further automation. Families and carers who already get Scottish child payment will now automatically be paid the Best Start Grant early learning and school age payments when their child is eligible. Automatic payments continued for around 90,000 carers eligible for the December payments of Carers Allowance Supplement, as well as around 23,000 disabled children and young people who received child winter heating assistance to help heat their homes. Scotland is missing out on more than £300 million in European support under the UK government's replacement funding programme. As the first payments are made to local authorities through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, Employment Minister Richard Lockhead said Scotland is suffering from a 60% shortfall in financial help. The UK government promised its UK Shared Prosperity Fund would replace in full all EU funding lost to Scotland after Brexit. but it has only allocated £212 million to Scotland over a 3-year period, when EU funding would have been worth around £549 million over 3 years, and that's a shortfall of £337 million. The new fund is distributed exclusively through local authorities, excluding national, community and third sector groups, risking the loss of services with these organizations provided. The UK government has also taken sole responsibility for use of the funds. Previously, the Scottish government allocated EU funding to ensure the needs of Scotland's people and communities were properly met. The UK Shared Prosperity Fund sees Scotland allocated £32 million in 2022 and 23, £55 million in 23-24, £125 million in 24-25. Even the third year of funding delivers less than Scotland received before the UK's EU exit. The Scottish Government has calculated £162 million per year would be needed to replace the European Regional Development Fund and European Social Fund, increasing to £183 million per year when LEADER funding and the EU territorial cooperation programs are added in. Shared prosperity funding is allocated over 3 years but delivered as single-year payments, and any underspend must be returned by local authorities to the UK government at the end of each year. EU funding has supported infrastructure projects and community initiatives across the country since the 1970s, with Scotland receiving and delivering more than £6 billion. Transformational projects such as the University of the Highlands and Islands and the European Marine Energy Centre in Orkney have brought significant benefits to businesses and communities. Projects previously supported by European territorial cooperation grants have included a scheme using video technology to help dementia patients stay at home rather than go to residential care, and a scheme developing tools powered by zero-emissions hydrogen. A new group is considering options to help reduce the financial burden of upcoming regulations on businesses. At its first meeting, the Regulatory Joint Task Force, established by Deputy First Minister John Swinney as part of wider measures to support business in November's emergency budget review, agreed to initially consider the impact of upcoming devolved legislation and examine whether planned new regulations can be amended or streamlined while still delivering on their core aims. It will also consider longer-term improvements to regulatory processes. The Joint Task Force, co-chaired by Business Minister Ivan McKee and Coastline Environment and Economy spokesperson Councillor Gail McGregor, will draw members from business organisations, regulatory bodies and local authorities. While the Joint Task Force will initially focus on upcoming devolved legislation and its cumulative impact, it is envisaged it will later be able to consider legislation already in place. Due to the impact of the cost of crisis in having on the cultural sector, Culture Secretary Angus Robertson has called on the UK government to extend the higher rate for theatre and orchestra tax relief to March 2024. In his letter to the Chancellor Jeremy Hunt, Mr. Robertson has highlighted his concern that the expected decrease in the tax relief from April 2023 will significantly hamper the culture sector's ability to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. In the UK government's 2021 autumn budget statement, the Chancellor announced a temporary increase in the rate of certain creative sector tax reliefs. These increases were for a limited period only and intended to kickstart activity in these sectors post-COVID. Scottish households have saved more than £3 billion in council tax since the Council Tax Reduction or CTR scheme was introduced almost 10 years ago. The latest figures published by the Scottish Government show 456,790 recipients received CTR in October 2022, meaning around 1 in 5 households were benefiting from the scheme. People on low incomes are eligible for CTR if they live in Scotland. There is no equivalent benefit in England, where most councils require each household to contribute a minimum amount of council tax, irrespective of ability to do so. People who receive CTR save on average £750 a year and become eligible for up to 35% of their water and waste charges. People can check whether they are eligible for council tax reduction through mygov.scot or by contacting their local council. Details of other help available, including extra financial support or for things like food, heating and electricity, can be found on the Scottish Government's Cost of Living Crisis Support website. The council tax reduction was from April 2013 to October 2022, and they were published on December 2022. Ensuring Scotland looks outward will even be more vital in 2023 for creating opportunities and delivering on their priorities. That's what External Affairs Secretary Angus Robertson has said. He said the Scottish Government's international network of 9 offices will continue working with the enterprise agencies to attract further investments, jobs and opportunities in Scotland. This will build on the efforts of recent years, which saw Scotland named in the 2022 EY Attractiveness Survey as the most successful nation or region in the UK outside of London in attracting foreign direct investment. The network will also help to protect and promote Scotland's interests in the EU and beyond, something that is even more important after Brexit, as the Cabinet Secretary said. The international offices will also look to capitalize on the opportunities flowing from the transition to net zero, including building on agreements with regional governments or country governments in Germany to develop partnerships on hydrogen. The 9 Scottish Government offices are located in Brussels, London, Ireland, France, Germany, USA, Canada, China and Denmark. These offices work alongside Scottish Development International, the trade and inward investment agency arm of Scottish Enterprise, and its network of trade and investment offices. And this concludes my weekly report on Scottish politics. I hope this helps a bit. I know people will not watch the 3 videos today that much. I know this. I know people are only looking for the big picture and everything, but I think it's really important to see what the devolved governments are doing or what's happening there, even when the government is still postponed. And so I will continue doing this, and I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.